Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Nugwa, and we're very happy to have Bethany here with us. Bethany is a nutritionist, and she enjoys spending time in the outdoors. I guess I would leave that introduction for you to do. But welcome, Bethany. Could you please tell us something more about like how you became a nutritionist and more about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm actually a certified holistic nutritional consultant. So I kind of started this journey a little bit differently. I actually was in the diet and health industry, and I started as a nurse. So I was very interested in how the body works, and I was very interested in how the brain works and everything. So it kind of got me started there in the first place. I developed a passion, I'd say, for nutrition while I was actually working in the diet and health industry. Like it was just like, ooh, it like opened up my eyes. And then I basically pursued further education because working in that industry, I felt like there was a lot of missing components that wasn't really like helping people like long term. As much as I felt like, I had the medical understanding, there was a big gap in like the holistic space and helping people sort of like sustain what they were doing and sort of really helping them like and understanding why. And it kind of just put everything together for me as like a puzzle piece. Um, I also like during that time was struggling kind of with my own hormonal health, and I was like in my early 20s at the time. So I actually got told I wasn't going to be able to have kids easily. I got told basically like you're probably going to have to go on like medication, fertility treatments, all this kind of stuff. And telling a young woman this when she's like super fit and healthy, and you're like, what? Like, how is this even possible? Like, there's nothing wrong with me physically. Like, I know, but there were some underlying issues that weren't really caught, I think, in the medical system. So I kind of went on my own holistic journey to kind of understand what it was really. And what happened was I had to really advocate for my health, which was quite surprising coming from a medical field that I really did have to like push for the advocation. So what I found out really was that I ended up having PCOS, but I wasn't explaining like the whole symptoms that a lot of people get. So I was kind of not in that like group. And because I wasn't sort of showing the like classical clinical signs, it was sort of like I was pushed aside a little bit that like, oh, don't worry, this will be something that you can like worry about in the future. But I wanted to have children and I didn't want to have to like wait so long. And didn't really realize that like a lot of these hormonal issues are going undiagnosed. So I actually went on my own health journey and used the holistic nutrition to really understand what was going on with my own body and sort of incorporating that into my own journey and understanding what supplements help and or what other things are out there to help me because I was open to it. So, all in all, while I was doing that journey, I actually became pregnant with my first son. I was in Greece and
Oh,
walking around, and like I didn't understand why I was so sick all the time. So I was like, do I have food poisoning? Like, what's going
oh
on?
my
And
gosh.
I had no idea. And I was 2 months pregnant with him already.
Wow.
So I was pretty surprised. So that was an early trip back to Calgary, Canada, which is where I'm at. And very surprised I had a baby. And then was really afraid that I was going to lose him because I got told, like, it's going to be really hard for you to get pregnant. So it's like that, don't expect to be able to hold this baby now. So now I'm like terrified. And, when you're in that place, you're more likely to be in a place of fear, right? And you're going to go to like the medical system and like, what do I need to take and what do I need to do? And, I didn't really have sort of the person like telling me like in a holistic way, like, don't worry, like these are all the things that you can do to help yourself. So, anyways, I had him. I ended up having pretty bad postpartum with him after as well, which I really had to help myself uncover that part too, because that's also another way holistically I had to help myself. Other than, the medical system was very much just like, here's some pills to make you feel better. Right. So again, it was kind of like I started to kind of give up a little bit on the medical system a little bit. And then I ended up getting pregnant fairly quickly with my second son. And again, my body sort of went back into this like reset mode, which I wasn't used to. And they couldn't sort of explain it to me either. But again, because I was taking better care of myself holistically and understanding all these things, I ended up getting pregnant. And I think my oldest was 22 months when he was born. So they were quite close in age.
Hmm.
So like I said, I really noticed there was a huge gap in the healthcare industry. And this is where I actually, once my boys were old enough, I actually started to look at more hormonal health. I started my business, Nutritious and Delicious, from home. And I've been doing that with raising my boys on the side as well.
Wow.
In between all that, I unfortunately became a widow. So my boys were 3 and 5
Wow.
at the time. So it's been a long, crazy journey and looking after little kiddos and helping other clients and everything. And what I noticed with a lot of the clients that I was having through nutrition was they were having a lot of hormonal imbalances. and they were kind of getting missed through the system,
Mm-hmm.
and really pushed around, like in terms of like, oh, see that doctor, this doctor, and not really being able to sort of explain to them. So there's a lot of medical jargon that was going on, and they're like, I really don't
Mm-hmm.
understand like what
Yeah.
this all means. So what do I do? So this is where I started to really look at like the hormone health space, and just from my own journey, like how much
Mm-hmm.
I've worked tirelessly to help myself. I really had a passion for it. And this is where I went into like more the hormone space, fertility space, helping women get pregnant, stay pregnant, and also postpartum, because it's such a journey. It's not just like you get pregnant, bye, there's still
Yeah.
the aspects after as
Mm-hmm.
well. So all in all, I've been in the health and wellness space throughout nursing and running my business about 17 years now. So that's kind of been the journey. It seems like a long time.
It is a long time. I mean, a child born 17 years ago is definitely almost done with high school. So that is a very long time. And it's quite interesting how you mentioned like you having like some of the symptoms that
Mhm.
um like weren't exactly how would I put this? Like, so how PCOS symptoms normally manifest weren't exactly how yours manifested, and that in itself was, I guess, like a problem for in terms of diagnosis, and they couldn't exactly draw the line between what you were going through and PCOS, but you
Mhm.
managed to handle this by yourself. You already had a medical background being a nurse, but how
Mhm.
did you like draw this line between what you were like, what you wanted to achieve, and the kind of diets that would get you there? Like, I'm trying to understand how like you were able to come up with something like in such a short period of time and it's already started to yield results.
I wouldn't say it was a short period of time. When we're talking about it, it seems like a short period of time, but when you're going through it and when you talk
Hmm.
to clients that are experiencing this, it's like years in the making. Whether you're struggling with endometriosis, PCOS, it seems to be a long period of time before you actually get kind of any recognition of what's going on, unless you have some very clear cut signs. Even with clients that experience endometriosis, and spoken to quite a lot of doctors about this too, like the diagnosis is it's ridiculous. It takes about, I think it's like 7 to 9 years for like an actual diagnosis sometimes. And like, look how long these women are like in pain and struggling. And their periods all over the map. And I think the other part is there's not a lot of education around periods. And I speak to other professionals like in that space too. And like, it's kind of mind boggling because like in the holistic space, like your period can tell you so much about what happened in the last month, even like emotionally, spiritually, like energetically, everything. And when you start looking at that and like tracking it in that way, you're like, oh, okay, like that explains it. Like I didn't have a very good month last month, and my sleep was off, my food was off. A lot of it, when you ask about like diet and things like that, it's it's kind of trying to figure out first like what are you experiencing, because how I deal with someone that has endometriosis is completely different with how I deal with someone with PCOS, because they have different symptoms and the hormonal balance is completely different. Like you're having high estrogen levels with the endometriosis, and we want to kind of lessen the inflammation around that. I'm going to go into that a little bit more too about sort of like the connection between fertility and the challenges and stuff as well. But PCOS in general as well, it's more of like an insulin resistance issue. And it's like typically that is the main majority. And that's how I sort of figured out for myself, was that it was like food pairing. So I understood like food combinations and like seasonal eating. And as you kind of start to dig into that, you're like, oh, okay, so not all food is created equal. And when I was working in the diet industry, it was like all they really focused on was more so like calories. So like you were still allowed to tell them to eat like protein bars that had things like aspartame, sucralose in them, which are terrible for your body, and certain fruits and vegetables that they were allowed to eat and weren't allowed to eat. So people would be asking me like, I don't really understand, like I'm allowed to eat this like processed food that's like on this list, but like I'm not allowed to eat carrots or corn. And I was like, I get it. So I had to be really careful with what I was telling them, because I had to stick to what I was doing, but at the same time I was transitioning into
Hmm.
this holistic way of eating and everything. And PCOS is very much like timing of eating, like pairing your foods together, what types of foods, like. So a lot of people come to me saying like, I eat really healthy, and I'm not, like I don't discredit that, like I can see that a lot of people are, but it could be also the way that they're eating, the types of foods, the
Hmm.
quality of their food, where the food is coming from, and a lot of that has changed. So we can definitely dive into that because there's a lot involved in that too.
Oh my gosh, it is
Um,
definitely a lot.
I really, what I was saying is that I loved how you touched on how holistic the journey is, and the fact that there is a huge mental health aspect to that, because it's oftentimes missed that there is also a huge mental pressure when women are going through PCOS journey, or when in your case you were receiving the news about you maybe not being able to have children in the future, or having had
Mhm.
and the fact that you were going to have a hard time with that. Um, And it's not just about our reproductive health and system. It's very much linked with mental health, with how you're going to kind of go through that journey. And I loved how kind of holistic for you that was.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. I was going to say, just in terms of like how it feels like rewarding, because you talked about sort of like the mental health aspect and everything. It was still a personal struggle for me, but like kind of the reason and the drive why I think I do this, and I've kind of moved into that area of nutrition because it starts sort of in a general way and you're kind of filtering down to, you're helping people, but like there's some core issues going on, and the majority of people that I worked with, like you said, like have that frustration. And it's like they're kind of coming to me. I'm like sort of the last person. They're in this like I give up and I don't have that um like trust in the system anymore. So they're kind of like, what else is out there? And I think when you've kind of experienced it yourself, you're like, I get it. And I've been in the medical field too, so I understand that. What I love, I think, and what's most rewarding for myself is seeing those transformations of both men and women, because it's not just women. Like I know we're focusing mainly on women here, but there's the guys too. And they're also on this journey. Like maybe if they're not going through fertility challenges themselves, they're still witnessing their partner, and they have to be supportive and they have to be there, because going through fertility treatments, all that kind of stuff, it's very draining. It's taxing on the woman. And especially when you're injecting yourself with hormones on top of it, it's just like this huge, it's this huge pressure. And also like, society too, like they're out in the public and they're seeing all these baby showers, and, so-and-so's just like recently gotten pregnant and it was so easy for them. And it starts to make women feel like they're lacking something inside. So this is where like this kind of goes into a couple of the things I deal with as well. As like it goes into like eating disorders, unfortunately, as well, both ways. And I'll touch on that too. But I love guiding women through this because I'm helping them through sort of that like hormonal and like balancing first to conception to like the healthy pregnancy, because that's a big one too. It's like as soon as they get pregnant, you want to keep monitoring that too, because as we know with PCOS, there's huge high risks for babies with gestational diabetes being born heavy, like too heavy in weight for baby typically. Mom's blood sugars all over the place, baby's blood sugars all over the place, can turn into preeclampsia, which is very dangerous for mom and baby. And even going into postpartum depression as well, like all that kind of stuff we need to kind of balance. So I really walk them through that journey, and I love helping clients through from basically the beginning of the hormonal to fertility and the postpartum as well, and seeing them just kind of achieve their dreams of expanding their families. Because sometimes I'm dealing with clients where they've already gone through such a hard journey on the first baby, and they're coming to me on their second round, third round. And they're like, I don't want to go through that system all over again. I want to redo and do it in a better way. But there's a lot of connection between diet and fertility challenges. And so what I see is the first thing is I usually like to sort of find out from like the mom and dad first, like, what nutrient deficiencies are we missing? Because it could be something that there's like underlying that has been missed in the medical community, because a lot of the times in the medical community, they're really just checking sort of like blood levels. So we need to check like thyroid health. We need to check sort of what's going on with their metabolism. We need to check like all the systems really that's happening, because it all interrelates with each other. So what's usually happening sometimes is the unexplained fertility can go in the direction of nutritional deficiencies. So we could be experiencing things like low B9, which is folate, low iron levels, which is quite common in women, especially if they're having like heavy periods. Zinc deficiency, that's a typical male sign as well. Vitamin D deficiency as well, especially in Canada, we don't get enough like sunshine. And this can really affect the hormone production for ovulation as well. So if you're not ovulating, you're obviously not going to get pregnant. A big one is high processed food intake. Now, this is kind of on the one aspect where I'm seeing more obesity, this side of things, because there can be two, right? Like sides of things. More so where there's too much high processed food going on. It leads to inflammation. It leads to insulin resistance, possibly not pairing foods together properly. Inadequate fiber intake. I find women, they're typically better at the vegetables than the guys. Like the guys, it's like you try and get them to eat vegetables and they're like, if you left me on my own, I wouldn't eat them. So I think women really help them with that aspect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's usually like a better place for the woman, I find. And then the lack of healthy fats, it hinders hormone production. So this is where we get into like talking to women where it's like, oh, like it depends on the generation I'm talking to as well. But it's usually like, oh, like if I eat carbs, I'm going to get fat, or if I eat fats, I'm going to get fat. So it's like these, you have to kind of like dispel these myths that are kind of pushed in like the media, social media, like through kind of the food guidelines, all the Canada food guidelines and all that kind of stuff. So this is again down to like proper education as well. The Western style way of eating can also impact the endocrine system. So we're very like on the go. If you think about it, everyone eats in their car, sits at their computer. I'm sure you guys can relate, like grab a
Yeah.
snack and go, and you're like eating out of a box, like out of a package. And then you're like, I wonder why I have no energy at like 3 to 5 p.m. And most people live off coffee because they're kind of pushing their endocrine system to like keep going. And then we have
Mhm.
these like huge crashes throughout our day.
Yeah.
So when we're kind of being like moved away from like that old school like 50s, like mom used to make dinner at home and all your meals were cooked and all that kind of stuff. We're
Mhm.
moving into more of like a fast-paced society.
Mhm.
And even worse now because it's now skip the dishes and Uber Eats, and you can basically get something given to you like just within minutes, right? So
Mhm.
this is kind of where we're going with all that. High glycemic foods as well. So this is like there's a spectrum of high glycemic to low glycemic foods. And where this doesn't make sense is that somebody could look at the high glycemic and low glycemic and say, okay, a Snickers bar is actually low glycemic because it has peanuts in it, it's healthy fat, right? So people are like, oh, cool, I can eat a Snickers bar, but then watermelon is at the very top of being too high glycemic, so it's going to spike your blood sugar. So it's kind of like this misinformation where people are like, oh, okay, I can eat a Snickers bar and I'm all good. So again, it's like trying to help people understand, okay, well, if we want to eat that watermelon, can we pair it with some healthy fat like almonds to lower that blood sugar going too high? So it's just,
Mhm.
again, it's a pairing issue.
Okay.
And then the biggest one I find I deal with is the diet mentality. So this is where I've come from, obviously, with like the whole diet background and understanding that. Using trends and fads to lose weight, skipping meals, like having bad habits like that, skipping meals, or just counting calories in general. Or the other one I noticed as well, people are repetitive. Like we are all kind of habits, like creatures of habit. We typically buy the same food, and I'm kind of similar. And I have to remind myself as I'm grocery shopping, buy a new vegetable, buy a new fruit, something that you haven't typically had, because we are very creatures of habit and we will buy the exact same things every time we shop typically. And we don't usually go outside of that.
Mhm.
So again, a lot of people aren't open to change. So you have to do baby steps slowly with people. But what I see a lot more of is like the trends of the keto, the low carb, there's always trends and fads coming in and out. What works for one person um, doesn't work for everybody. And there's, the whole like a Ozempic, all that kind of stuff coming through with the diet, like injections and things. People really have to understand like the implications of what it does to the body long term. So you really have to understand that too. A lot of these things do work, but the problem I find when working in these industries is that they were a temporary fix.
Mhm.
So a lot of the times people can't sustain that. And then what
True.
happens is people go back to their old ways of thinking and eating, and they haven't done the work emotionally with their mindset around the food, and they end up actually heavier when they restart. And it's quite alarming because what I've seen is it creates more binge eating or it creates more restrictive eating. So on either aspect of bulimia, anorexia versus like obesity, you're kind of balancing that scale in a very bad way. And that's why these like diets, trends, all that kind of stuff, they work because they work on people's um, desperation, basically. So they're
True.
catering to that. So
Yeah.
they're grabbing a group of people that are like, I'm desperate. I need to get in that wedding dress. I need to have that baby. I need, and the holistic route is a slower route, but it's more rewarding because the long-term results is we're going to help balance you in that aspect. And
Mhm.
I think that's what I love about what you guys are doing, because it's like another tool in the toolbox.
Amazing. Thank you so
Mhm.
much, Bethany. You have enlightened us in so many ways that I didn't even know existed. I for one, I mean, I've always known about like the high glycemic, low glycemic, but knowing that fruits, like certain fruits need to be paired with other things just to balance out how it can spike glucose in the blood sugar and all of
Mhm.
that is very informative. I didn't even think like personally, I would just avoid certain things as opposed to pairing it with things that would balance it
Yeah.
out. So that's a very new perspective for me. And
Yeah.
amazing.
And what I was going to just quickly say on that, when you were talking about like when you said the word avoid, so when I'm
Hmm.
listening to clients and they're using very like never always like avoid or anything like
Hmm.
that, we have to sort of understand that everything is allowed. It's like we're putting everything back on the table again, because when we start taking things off, it becomes like it's sitting on a pedestal. And this is where a lot of clients are like, but what do you mean I can have a treat, And I'm like, you can, like, let's make it healthier. Let's do like a different treat. And I want you to look forward to it, not like, oh, I have to eat this disgusting salad or broccoli. Like, I'm trying to eat my food again, and it doesn't help people. You're not looking forward to it. Right. So I think
Yeah.
that's where a lot of people have that misinformation, I
Hmm.
think, around food and everything.
That is wholesome. Like everything you've mentioned, I'm taking notes. I'm glad that this is being recorded and that it's also going live on YouTube because there's so much to unpack and so much to learn
Mhm.
here. And I guess that would bring me to the next question. I was going to ask, what would you say is the most rewarding part about your job? This all sounds very like informative and people want to know more. And some people come like completely oblivious to what exactly they should be doing and should not be doing. So when you have patients come to you, what's the most rewarding part in the journey with them?
The most rewarding part, I think, is when I hear clients say to me, like, oh, I came off this medication and I didn't realize I could even do that. And my doctor was so like amazed. And I've had the same thing happen, like
Oh,
they've been on something for a really long time or they've struggled with something for a long period. And all of a sudden I'm passing this information and education to them. They're walking away and they're now teaching it to their friends, their family. And then they're coming to me saying, hey, like you helped them. Can you help me now? Because like they've done so well. So that's what I
yeah.
think I love about it.
That's amazing. I think this is so important for people to know, like knowing that this holistic wellness on its own
Mm-hmm.
is a kind of medication or a form of medication apart from so knowing that we have modern medicine that we're blessed to have, there's also like the natural side of it where if we're able to connect with what we truly need for our bodies or what our body is telling us it needs and us giving it that thing, that's exactly what you're doing. So you're just helping people get better naturally as opposed to depending too much on um medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
what I like about your journey is that how you kind of took all of the information that the medical system was giving you, and then you were like, but I need to know more. And then you went ahead and then you tried to kind of figure out that world for yourself, and you made a successful business out of it, and you're helping other women navigate through that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And to that point, what would you say, if you wanted to kind of give a few tips or tricks to women navigating PCOS like myself,
Mm-hmm.
or those navigating through the endometriosis journey, or those navigating through the trying to conceive journey? What would those tips or tricks be for them? What would
I
you tell
think
them?
don't just kind of stick yourself in like one category of like the medical or holistic because sometimes it requires one or both or together. I've had to go through many different aspects. I tried holistic sometimes before trying to get my periods because I didn't have periods for 2 years and they couldn't medical field couldn't tell me. I went holistic route and then eventually saw like an endocrinologist, which is a hormone specialist. But just in terms of like for yourself, what you guys do with Fibra is that what I love about it is it's like a whole new way of understanding reproductive health, right? And it's a high tech underwear that is easily connected to an app on your phone. And it's basically giving you like a personal fertility tracker 24/7. So that's what I love about it is that try something new, try something different. I think that's what really appealed to me about like what you guys have, because there's not a lot of stuff out there in terms of when you're looking for things. And I wish that there was more things like this that could give you more personalized tips. The data as well, like taking that data from what you guys do as well to your healthcare provider and using it as like a holistic approach. So they have more information for you. So you have your blood work, your nutritional deficiencies, like anything that's going on, like the underwear tracking. And I think this will really help. What I like about it, everything together, is it helps lessen the time because I think a lot of the women that are experiencing fertility issues is that we're on such a time constraint to only have this window, and then women are getting more and more stressed, which doesn't help the process, right? So I
Mhm.
think having all these aspects, and if you want to sort of cut down your time with having endometriosis, PCOS, is like listen to these types of videos because there's so many other avenues and combining them all together, I think is going to get you there a lot faster.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, Bethany. That was so um, inspiring, uplifting, informative. I think definitely people with PCOS would benefit a lot from this video and also like women going through the endometriosis journey. It takes a very long time to get diagnosed and just
Yeah.
knowing that whatever little bit of information is out there that can help make their journeys easier will definitely go a long way. So thank you so much for all the insights. Um, so I was going to ask, I guess you already answered that question. In what ways do you think that fibra can complement naturally existing conception methods or natural ways to conceive?
So on that one, it helps you actually pinpoint more of your fertile days. So what I like about Fibra is that with the underwear, you can actually have something in your drawer, your own underwear drawer, that actually helps you control your own hormonal health. So you can work with your doctor, you can work with someone in nutrition. You have this underwear that has all this data involved and it's actually helping kind of give you that information. You can bring it to your provider as well. And it also works alongside any fertility treatments that you're doing. So it's an enhancement to anything that you're already kind of on that journey with. And a lot of the times when women are on that IVF journey, they don't feel like they have a lot of control. So it's like a great way to like mentally also give them like that aspect to like they can start to like take more control of their own like health.
Hmm.
Right. And I love that about it. And it also gives you more information on like your personalized tips and diet and lifestyle, which is fantastic. And like I said, it has to be a holistic aspect because
Hmm.
one size doesn't fit all with everybody.
Absolutely correct. No two cycles are the same. We say that a lot here at Faber.
Yeah.
Great. So what excites you the most about the product? I know you've mentioned how it can complement naturally existing fertility efforts, but how do you, well, what exactly do you think excites you the most out of all the, of course, wonderful features that the product has?
Yeah, it hasn't got like what I've noticed is there's not really a lot of stuff that hasn't gotten much attention before in terms of like that's like the area I think where most people are sort of not looking, right?
Hmm.
And it helps kind of catch that hormonal imbalances faster and quicker, which could give you actually a better chance of getting pregnant and lessening that time frame. I think it's a really big game changer, I think, in terms of helping women really like understand themselves and giving them like more the driver's seat, I think, instead of just kind of handing it over to somebody else and
Hmm.
then sort of being told all this stuff they're not really understanding. So I think it's sort of like the cool new way of like you've got it on your phone and you're like, you know, you're with it. You've got the whole new underwear and everything, and they're really soft and everything as well, made from natural materials. So that's all good too. I love that.
Thank you. Amazing. Thank you so much, Bethany. We've enjoyed chatting with you today. We've also enjoyed the wealth of knowledge you've shared with us. Personally, I'm going away with so much, and I know that our viewers and listeners will also go away with so much to unpack and learn from everything you've mentioned. Your wealth of knowledge, over 17 years of doing this, that's counting aside the experience you've had as a nurse. So definitely so many years of knowledge and experience to share. We're so pleased to have had you here today and really hope that you enjoy our, like, you continue to enjoy our partnership and looking forward to more collaborative events with you.
Mhm.
Thank
Definitely.
you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank